Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again from Film Fanatic headquarters. It is Wednesday, 11:07, May 6th. It's hard to believe it's already Wednesday. The week is flying right by. Hope everyone's doing good. Um, yeah, so been watching a lot of movies. Surprise, surprise. I got some VH tapes that I'm still going to review. I started a little bit of this, kind of loose, informal new series on some of the VHS tapes I've been kind of rewatching. I got my I got it for free, but I got this VHS Blu-ray player about a year ago, and about a week ago, I guess it was, I actually set it up. I had forgotten that I even had it, and it I snagged it up. I got it for free through Opera House Video, and I stuck it in my car. It sat in my car for a while, and then I threw it in the downstairs of my house. Totally forgot that I really even had it, and then I hooked it up about a week or two ago during where I had some time off, and it worked pretty damn well, or it works pretty well. So it got me to start watching some VHS tapes again, which is pretty funny. So I had this crazy idea of starting a little bit of a newer series on the channel called the VHS Corner. So I'll be doing some more tape reviews, VHS tapes. Pretty funny. The quality again is I still don't understand the kind of this whole I don't know if you want to call it like a renaissance, like this whole new attraction to VHS now, which is kind of crazy. I will say though, I put in a movie. I think it was a few days ago, and the tape wouldn't play, and it was acting a little bit wonky. So I'm a little bit curious or cautious or a little bit nervous that maybe the player isn't working or the tape didn't get eaten, but we'll see. That's the problem with VHS. It's a pain in the ass. I've been buying, Blu-rays for quite a while. I mean, I guess I started buying Blu-rays probably about 8 years ago. So years before that was when the Blu-ray kind of technology came out and was really big. But I waited and waited quite a few years, and then about 8 years ago, I started buying Blu-rays. And now, when I do buy movies, I do still buy DVDs here and there, but primarily as a collector of movies, I try to just buy Blu-rays. But I will say, getting close to almost 10 years since I've had Blu-rays, I haven't had one problem with any of the quality of the Blu-rays. As far as I try to take really good care of them. I don't leave them out, put them in the case, and try to put them back in the shelf. But I haven't had any problems with any of the discs, malfunctioning, getting scratched, getting fucked up. It's been pretty awesome. I've gone through players, though. I have gone through probably two or three Blu-ray players and a couple of TVs. I will say they don't make that kind of stuff like they used to. They make it. I mean, like everything that is made here in the United States, everything is made to just last a couple of years. I mean, there's all this hoopla and thing around buy American products, but it's like everything is built and made to just collapse and fail within a couple of years. It's kind of a joke. Everything is like made cheaply, and it's kind of a joke. But so I have gone through a lot of those, but I will say my actual discs that I have, it's been close to 10 years. I haven't had one problem with any of the movies that I've been buying. So that's pretty awesome. Compared to like obviously with VHS where they get stuck in the machine, they get trashed, they get really dirty, and but it's fun to have the player, and it's fun to if I'm in a store somewhere, maybe Goodwill or what have you. I actually looked the other day when I was in Opera House Video. Dennis Howard, my great friend and owner of Opera House Video, he had been telling me that VHS was becoming a big thing there again, which is kind of crazy. So I was looking to see if they had any VHS tapes for sale because I would buy some VHS tapes like really cheap though. I wouldn't pay more than $2 for a VHS tape at this time, but I didn't come across any. It would be kind of fun if I came across some old school horror movies from the 80s or 70s or beyond uh, on VHS, but I'd only buy them if they're like uber cheap. I mean, obviously. But anyway, so I uh, I just uploaded a new show on one of my favorite actors, such an iconic actor, Tom Atkins. So fun. I love his work. He's been in so many great movies. And kind of the thing that motivated me to do a show on Tom Atkins is, well, I love, there's so many great films he's been in. Worked a lot with John Carpenter. But the other night I watched Maniac Cop, which is such a fucking great movie. I love that movie. One of, directed by one of my favorite directors of all time, William Luswig. He he's directed so many amazing movies, Vigilante, the Maniac Cop films, and Maniac, which is pretty much my favorite, exploitation slasher movie of all time. I've heard some people say, which I was surprised. Well, actually, Pizzawell, who is a YouTube guy that I really really like, he didn't consider the Maniac to be a slasher movie, more of a serial killer movie, which I get. It is definitely a serial killer movie, but I definitely feel like it's definitely a slasher movie. That's my all-time favorite slasher movie in that kind of genre. Even though it definitely is a slasher, or even though it is a kind of a portrayal of a serial killer, but I still consider it a slasher movie. And Bill Luswig directed so many great classic movies, as you know. And then he also started the Blue Underground, which is an amazing boutique label, one of my favorite labels. I have quite a few Blue Underground titles, so so great. But while I was watching Maniac Cop, I was like, man, I really need to do a show on Robert Zadar, who is the actor who plays the actual Maniac Cop. Robert Zadar is a another just iconic actor. He's known for his incredibly large, distinctive jawline, which was caused by a some kind of a disease or ailment called cherubism. And his career, there's an awesome interview on the Maniac Cop Blu-ray that I have, which is really great. I mean, as far as sheer quality of Blu-ray, getting that real Blu-ray experience, and for me is one of the reasons why, for me, it's the best, way to see a movie. I haven't moved into the 4K world, but I don't know. I don't think at this point I'm going to. It's just because then that just means I have to get even more copies of the movies that I own. And in that, in a lot of cases, I already have like multiple copies of a particular movie. I mean, there's like, I guess one big example would be, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I have multiple copies of that. So this means I have to, I'm going to have the sixth version of it. So it's just like, it's kind of insane. And then another movie that I have numerous copies of is Halloween. Same thing. And I know the quality is pretty amazing. I don't think in some situations, though, it's too much of a difference. I don't think I think it's kind of the same, you know. I don't really think there's any difference. Like one movie that I did buy last year, which I'd always been wanting to buy, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, is Steven Spielberg's Jaws. There was this past summer was the 50th anniversary of that masterpiece, and I got to see it on the big screen I got to see it in the theater, and it was amazing. It was in 4K too. I got to see it at the Strand, and it was incredible. And then, but before that, I did buy it on Blu-ray. I have a Blu-ray edition of it, and it's absolutely incredible. It's the 50th anniversary, so I think it's two discs. There's all kinds of special features, and I have to say the quality is absolutely incredible. And seeing it on the big screen, of course, is always going to be more, just more exciting, and it will always things. I think things like, to me, at the end of the day, it's watching a movie, seeing it on. If you get a chance to see a movie you really love, or just in general, the first and the best way to experience it is on the big screen, without a doubt. I mean, there's no question about that. But when it comes to like your own experience, in your own little man cave, I think Blu-ray is pretty damn good. And I will say that I had read some reviews about Jaws, the 50th anniversary, because it was released on Blu-ray. It has been, that movie's been out on, well, DVD for, 1,000 years, but VHS as well. And I know quite a few years ago it was put out on Blu-ray, more of like a standard version. And then this past year they put out the 50th anniversary, and it was remastered, restored, comes with tons of special features, documentaries. It's pretty extraordinary. But I will say, and I had seen some reviews about Jaws, the 50th anniversary on 4K, and people were saying that it's just one of the most incredible you know experiences that they had ever seen, as far as a movie being restored. They said it was just absolutely amazing. But I will say honestly, seeing it on the big screen was absolutely incredible. And then the copy that I have on Blu-ray, I don't really notice all that much of a difference. Not, I will say honestly, I didn't notice so much of a difference that it's gonna kind of like motivate me to go out and buy a 4K player. Which if I did decide to get into 4K, I would have to buy, well, one, a brand new TV that is 4K compatible, which is not something I really want to do. And then I have to buy obviously a 4K player, which I don't have. So that's added two big expenses. And I don't think that stuff would be cheap. And then plus buying 4Ks, which are significantly more expensive than Blu-rays. So there, for me as a fan, there's kind of like three strikes automatically. But I will say, seeing it, and I have seen other movies in 4K before, definitely. The Waldorf After Dark, going there to that series now that but unfortunately it's not happening anymore. But it's going to be in a different location. I have seen movies there where they are in 4K, or no, no, actually, I take it back. Blue Blu-ray versions of those films. The only theater that I know of that has 4K capability is the Strand in Rockland, which is an amazing theater. I think it's probably the best theater in the state to see a movie as far as the visual thing, other than maybe going to like IMAX. I really think it is the best. I don't go there nowhere near as often as I wish I did, but I will say the biggest factor as far as me on 4K is I don't notice that much of difference that between the version I have and the 4K that I saw on the big screen at the Strand. It's a little bit better, maybe a little bit more clear, or a little bit more clarity, maybe with the 4K on the big screen, maybe, but it's very subtle, and so not enough to where I'm like, okay, I need to go fully on board with 4K. Not enough to motivate me, so I'm really happy with it. But watching Maniac Cop, it's one of the most beautiful editions that I have as far as the transfer goes, and it's got a great amount, awesome amount of really cool special features. So, watching the Tom Atkins interview and then watching the Robert Zadar interview, I was like, man, Robert Zadar, he passed away in 2015. Unfortunately, I didn't realize he passed away that long ago. But I was like, man, this guy, Robert Zadar was so awesome, and he's so great in Maniac Cop. He was in, I think he was in all three Maniac Cop movies because the Maniac Cop became a big franchise. Bill Luswig directed the first one, and I do believe he directed the second one, maybe the third one. There's like four of them, but I remember them all being awesome. I haven't seen the other films in the franchise in a super long time, but Maniac Cop to me is one of my favorites. It's so awesome. It's classic Bill Luswig. Um, it's such a fun movie. It's super dark. Tom Atkins is in it. And I was like, man, there's such a great interview with Robert Zadar where I was like, I gotta do a show on him because he's such an iconic character, actor. He's been in so many movies. I mean, when you look up Robert Zadar, I mean, he's such an iconic. I mean, talk about an actor that that you see on the screen in whatever role it might be. He just has such a presence. I mean, talk about a presence where he can just kind of like be on screen with no dialogue, and you just kind of feel his badass aura, if you will. Just amazing. And he's been in so many movies, or was in so many movies. When I looked him up a little bit, he was in almost over 100 films, which is totally insane. And he bounced back and forth, between he was in some very big Hollywood films, and then in a ton of really low budget exploitation movies like Maniac Cop. But just amazing. And he in this interview, he is it's such a cool interview. Again, that's the special features on Maniac Cop are just really great. The interviews aren't super long, but they're just really fun. They're really insightful. Tom Atkins' interview is super interesting and funny, and he's just very open and honest, genuine. And the same thing goes for Robert Zadar's interview. He's just so cool. He's probably Robert Zadar is probably most well known for his roles as in the Maniac Cop franchise, especially the first one. I mean, he's so iconic. I love how that movie does such a great job without the reveal of Robert Zadar. Like, you don't really see him as Maniac Cop. Like, you don't get a definite look at his body or his physique or his face until towards the end of the film. All before that, Maniac Cop's character is just kind of this imposing, menacing presence, and you just see him in the shadows. And it isn't until like kind of the climactic ending. Bruce Campbell's also in it, and he's just incredible. Sam Raimi makes an appearance, but you don't see there isn't a big reveal of Robert Zadar's Maniac Cop character until like the end, the big climactic ending, where he crashes off that dock and gets impaled. Then he comes back. Like, there isn't that. I love how we don't get to see him. You get the presence of him, and they go a little bit into kind of why he became the Maniac Cop and why he was why he came to be. But it's super cool, really, really, really awesome, and I think it really helps the movie, and it makes it even more exciting because again, it goes back to that thing that I talk a lot about, where kind of the less is more factor often makes for a much more powerful experience as opposed to all guns blazing all the time where you're seeing everything. When there's some kind of restraint, less is more, I just think is really the way to go. And I think Bill Luswig did such a great job with the Maniac Cop character to where at the very end, the last maybe 15 minutes of the film, that's when you actually see Rob Zadar as the Maniac Cop. And it's like, it's such a cool payoff because he's super super frightening, super menacing. His physicality is just so awesome. Yeah, it's just great. It's just so great. There's the interview with Robert Zadar is super funny too. He had a really great, amazing, just such a cool sense of humor. And for a long time, I mean, I again, I'm gonna get into all of the movies that he's done, you know, and I do believe he did some television for a while. I've seen a good amount of the films that he was in, but his interview on the special features for Maniac Cop is just really, it's just fabulous, and he's super funny. And he was talking about Robert Zadar was also very well known for throughout the years for going to all kinds of horror conventions. He really had a connection with fans. He was a fan, you know, people, fans, film fanatics like me, and people into horror. Always, you know, he was always like put him on a pedestal, and rightfully so, as a legend, and just so such an icon, and for the the low budget exploitation film or style. And he was known for having this really great reputation. Like he would go to all kinds of conventions throughout the years for most of his career. Always had that kind of connection with fans. You know, just constantly interacting with fans. And in this interview, and it's really funny, and it's kind of, I guess you could say it's kind of disturbing too. But Robert Tadar was talking about, in this interview about, his connection with fans and going to conventions and all these things. And he said that his biggest fan base were people in law enforcement, like people who were police officers, anybody in law enforcement. And he said that those people in those various jobs were, you know, his biggest fans. And so he said that he would, a lot of conventions and signings that he would do, all these cops would show up to get his autograph. And he said in this interview that he was always like kind of like thrown off by it and kind of baffled, because at the end of the day, like I was saying before, Robert Zadar has done all kinds of movies, and he's done all, big budget films, a few big Hollywood films, but then also some mostly low budget films. But at the end of the day, he's probably most well known for Maniac Cop. Like I think that movie kind of put him on the map. And he said that all these cops would show up to the convention, and various people in law enforcement. And he said that what he talked about in the interview about like asking a few of these guys, like, what is it that why do you love this movie so much, in this case Maniac Cop, and why do you like my character so much? And he was saying on their response, the cops who were his fans at these conventions and things, they were saying, well, we really love Maniac Cop because it's a cathartic thing for us, because you do the things that we want to really do, but we can't do in real life. And it's just like, Jesus Christ. Like, because Maniac Cop, he's like a slasher killer. He kills everything that walks and breathes and moves. And it's kind of like, whoa, okay, kind of frightening and hilarious, but kind of frightening when police officers say that they just have this psychotic impulse or psychopathic impulse to just murder and kill everything around them. But they look at the Maniac Cop films as being a really cathartic release for them to, which I guess is cool. I don't know. It really funny though, really really funny. And speaking mainly of, at first, the Maniac Cop films, Robert Zadar's, he was in all three films: Maniac Cop, the original '88, Maniac Cop 2 1990, and Maniac Cop 3 Badge of Silence. Interesting. I haven't seen the other films in years. Other films that he was in, one big movie, commercial movie with, which is actually with Kurt Russell. a big Hollywood film with Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone. He was in Tango and Cash, which is hilarious. I didn't realize. I forgot. I haven't seen that movie in years. Another movie of his, which is definitely more on the low, super low budget exploitation realm, but awesome movie. I actually saw it at Waldorf After Dark. Samurai Cop, fucking awesome movie. Super fun, hilarious, terrible, and amazing. Another movie he was in 1990, Soul Taker in 1990, Mobsters in 91, Future War in 97. Yeah, so many movies. But I didn't realize he passed away in 2015. He actually died of a heart attack at a convention. Oof, that's crazy. But again, so many movies. He was in The Italians Are Coming. No, I don't know what that is. That's not the that's the wrong information. Cancel that. So of course, Maniac Cop 1988, Maniac Cop 2 1990, Maniac Cop 3 Badge of Silence 92, Tango and Cash that came out in 89, Samurai Cop 91, Future War 97, Soul Taker 90, Beastmaster 2. Oh, okay. 91, Mobsters 91, Cherry 2087, Return to Frogtown in 93, Killing American Style 88, A Gnome Named Norm in 1990, Easter Sunday 2014. Yeah, wild. Yeah, so great. So I wanted to do a show on Rob Zadar because I just think, again, such an icon, such a legendary actor. Every time I've seen him in a movie, he just has this presence that, again, just you just he doesn't have to. He can be. You can just the camera can just be on him, and you're just this guy. This guy's amazing. Just such a great presence, great personality, great reputation, just awesome, super cool. He got picked up from Bill Luswig found Rob Zadar after seeing him in a movie called The Night Stalker, which I don't know if I've seen, which is older, came out in the early '80s, and I'm not sure if I've seen it, but that was the movie that where I guess Bill Luswig, the director for for Maniac Cop, saw that movie, and Robert Zadar starred in The Night Stalker, which came out a few years before, and he was like, this is my." After seeing it, he was like, "This is my guy. This is the Maniac Cop," and he pretty much got in touch with him immediately after, and I don't even think he didn't even really even have to do an audition. He just got hired basically on the spot. So, such an amazing actor. Yeah, I definitely need to buy his other films that he starred in. Yeah, just great. So thanks again, and peace.